Hi guys, this video is to review the writing prompt instructions that we're going to be working on over the next couple days. So this writing prompt, we are building on, it will open for me, we are building on some of the ideas that we worked on with essays before. We worked on analytical type of essays. So these are a little bit easier that you don't have to involve a text. And I'm actually not going to go through all of the instructions because we need to focus on just picking an essay and planning for it and getting started on it. So for this essay, you are allowed to write a narrative essay, which is a little bit more creative. You can do an informative essay or an argumentative essay. And you have these three choices. So let's talk about these choices. I'm going to copy these and paste them onto a document here. Okay, for a narrative essay. So a narrative essay, that is a story. And we have talked about the plot chart, the intro to the story, the rising action, the climax, falling action, and the resolution. So if you pick one of these, your introduction to the story is going to be what we find in introductions, which is the character, the setting, and the problem or the situation. So I can write, if I'm working on this prompt, a moment that I will never forget. I'm not writing a story that's 6 pages long. I'm not writing a short story. I'm not writing a novel. I need to pick that moment. Now, a moment, that might be something that is positive. So I can make a list of good things that happened to me. Maybe I won an award. Maybe it was a day that I spent time with my cousin who I don't see that much. Maybe it was a race that I was in, that I won the race, or any other kind of positive things. And to plan for this, I would just start with a list of things that happened to me. Now, does it have to be fictional or factual? I think we're better writers when we can base something off of our experience because we can remember and use those visuals to help create this story for other people. That moment might not be, I might not remember it because it was good. Maybe I remember it was bad. Maybe it was a funeral, or maybe it was I lost in something. I lost a race, or, I tried to be vice president. I ran for vice president and I lost. And I remember that moment. So you have to think of with this problem or situation, you have to think of from what perspective you're going to start this story. If I'm picking one of these then, so maybe I'm picking the time that I spent time with my cousin, I need to then further plan and say, what is one thing that we can talk about, that I can talk about, and I can present the situation we were in, and that it has some rising action elements that will become different paragraphs. It has something big. Not all stories have falling action, but it has a resolution. The thing that I'm looking for in these essays is that you really develop a beginning, middle, and end. Because so far we've been working on more with the analytical essays, just the middle part, just the body paragraph. So we're looking at all parts of an essay now. How can I plan for change one rule in our school or community? Now, for a narrative story, I'm going to have to think about maybe from the perspective of maybe I'm talking about the problem here, and at the end, that's whenever the new rule was implemented. So maybe I won't even talk about that rule at the beginning. Maybe it just comes out at the end. Or maybe I tell the story of how I got a rule change in our community. The narrative essays, that is where you can use informal language when you're talking about dialogue, when the characters are talking. You have your choice of writing it in first or third person. So you can use I for narratives. That's a little bit easier that you don't have to think about that. But you definitely want to plan. Otherwise, it's one big run-on story. We want to have all of those story parts. For this one, why is honesty an important part of friendship? Maybe that's the lesson that my characters learn. Again, maybe that part of honesty being an important part of friendship isn't given at the beginning. Maybe there's a problem between two friends, or maybe I'm already upset because I found out somebody lied to me. So there will be some part of this, some connection that I would be able to tell when you start writing what prompt you're writing about. And then again, that might not come out till the end. Now, if I am writing an informative essay, I think those are probably the easiest. I'm going to plan a little bit differently, but I still want to plan with lists. A moment that I'll never forget, I still might start with these plans. The difference now is when I am focusing and I finally choose, my thesis is going to be very specific. I am now going to use the words in the prompt and say, a moment that is unforgettable, or a moment that I would never forget. And I'll let you use I in the informative essays too, but they're still formal. So a moment that is unforgettable, or a moment that I will never forget is, and then you need to like fill in that blank, okay? And I need to fill in a blank, and then I need to say why, because, and I give my reason why. And this reason why becomes my body paragraphs. I could list, moment I will never forget is when I won the race because I worked hard to get there, and it was and I worked hard to get there, and a lot of people were counting on me. And I gave those two parts to it. Now I know that my first body paragraph is going to be about me working hard to get there, and maybe body paragraph 2 is going to be about people counting on me, okay? And then I have a conclusion to that, and the conclusion kind of wraps that up and say why it's important and leaves the reader with like that satisfying ending. As far as the rule for our school or community, how I would plan for that, I would start with a list of things that I dislike in school. Maybe that has to do with lunches, or maybe it's lunchtime, the amount of time that I have. Or in my community, something I really hate is going by and seeing the trash along the roads. So I want to start with something and say, what kind of rule could I implement, or what can I change about how the rules we already have? What can I change to make this better? What could I add to make this better? Okay. And again, for my thesis in my introduction, I'm going to use those words, and I'm going to say a rule in school that should be changed. And I don't think this one you need I in it. A rule, a school rule that could be changed. Okay, or one rule that would be useful for our community is, and again, I'm filling that out, and then really importantly, you want to say why, because, and that why helps you develop your body paragraph. So come up with at least 2 good reasons why that rule would be useful. Okay, maybe I want to, if I'm sick of the trash, maybe I make a rule about the community helping pick up trash. And my body paragraphs would be about the specifics of the rule and why it would be important. Okay, and finally, why is honesty an important part of friendship? Again, I need to think of some ideas behind that. And so maybe I think of my friends. Maybe I think of times where honesty was important. Maybe I think of times whenever I was lied to. And I just want to list those. You want to brainstorm, so make lists, jot some ideas, just start typing. And you're not starting typing your essay, you're just typing some ideas. Okay, and then again, with this thesis statement, you would say honesty is an important part of friendship because, and then that's where you would come up with your own idea. So that is for the informative essay. Okay, we talked about the narrative essay. The most challenging essay is the argumentative. And just as a review, argumentative has some informative qualities to it. So you have to give information, give supporting information for the topic. You also have to think argumentative has 2 sides, 2 positions. And so you would have to think of what would be going against you. And then it has that counterclaim and rebuttal. And you learned a lot about that last year. So, that side, what would they say to go against your position? And how would you prove them wrong? Okay, so this one probably is not appropriate for an argumentative. The best one for an argumentative is probably the second one. So a rule that you should change in the community or in the school. Again, I start with a list to brainstorm and just come up with a list of ideas to choose from, and that will get my brain thinking. And how I'm going to organize this one is a little bit different. The thesis will probably be about the same. You can still say a rule that our school needs is because, there shouldn't be a dash there, because, and you still sort of plan that in the same way. The difference now is at least one of your paragraphs is going to address that counterclaim. And so you're going to use words like, some people feel that, maybe some people feel that if we would have a longer lunch period, we would have less academic time. But that's not true. Okay, that rebuttal has to have that statement. That is not true because, or you can say, while students would lose some time in classes with a longer lunch period, right? And then I fill out why. We know this is a dependent clause, right? Saying while this is true, and I still need to address that, we still have, maybe I look at how many minutes of instruction we still have. The minutes of instruction per day still outweighs the minutes for lunch. Or maybe I look at other ways that you can adjust the schedule so no class time is lost. Again, you're proving whatever you come up with wrong. You're proving them wrong and proving why this is wrong, why it's valid, but why it's wrong. Okay, so this is probably the best one. You might be creative and figure out a way to do an argumentative with that third one. But anyways, that's where the starting point is. Pick your prompt, pick your type of essay that you want to write, start planning. You could probably start making a list and start planning even before you pick your type of essay, and then go back once you fix it. You'll have to do some more planning. But that's mainly what we talked about in class today. And then everybody got started just writing. After you're planning, just get started writing. And like I said, the rest of these instructions I will go over after you have the essay done to what you think is a good essay, and then we'll talk about it. I did change this length. Originally, I had a word length. The length is 1 to 2 pages in length. So no more than 2 pages, no less than 1 full page. If you have any questions, please ask.